It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
So, Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and Joaquin Gage, and welcome to episode 11 of Two Guys and a Goalie. 11 also happens to be the number of my favorite hockey player of all time. You guys want to guess who?
Mark Messier?
No, not Mark Messier.
I didn't wear 11.
No one else that has ever been good in the history of the NHL has worn number 11.
Oh, you're a son of a bitch. There, I said it early in the podcast. We'll get it out of the way.
Oh, is it Saku?
Saku Koivu, number 11. Come on.
Wow.
God,
I
Cass,
knew that.
disrespecting all the great number 11s.
Well, just intentionally because I knew how much it would bother you.
Who was your favorite player? Who was your guys' favorite player growing up? Did you have one? You must have had one.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Messier. He was one
Okay.
of the favorite guys. Like just being a kid from Edmonton, he was up there. Loved Cujo back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Even not being a goalie. Well, I guess I
even
love
not being a
Patrick Waugh.
goalie, it was just cool. Like the mask, because I loved the mask. The mask was super cool. Yeah, I loved him. I loved Mario Lemieux too. Like because he was just so freaking good.
He was good. Gage, what about you? You have a goalie fetish growing up, or did you like somebody else?
Yeah, I really liked Frank Kris when he played for the Canucks, but I stopped liking him when he started hitting on my mom.
Yeah.
True story?
True story. Yeah.
So you guys went to a game and he hit it? You were like, what
no,
happened?
no. We were. I was doing a hockey camp out at UBC, and my dad. He wasn't the best dad, but I think my mom and dad were on a break at that point, and my mom was kind of flirting with Frank Kris, and we were doing like off ice training, and I'm like. And you guys aren't going to believe it, but I was like, Mom, come on. And then I didn't like Frank Kris after that because
Hitting on your mom.
He was sitting on the grassy knoll outside of the rinks at UBC chatting up my mom.
Well, you were out there doing dry land.
Yeah.
God, that's garbage.
Yeah, that was, he was Italian.
With that being said, great story. What a way to start podcast episode number 11. Two Guys and a Goalie presented to you by Oddshark. Check out everything you need, oddshark.com. Chris Abbott is scheduled to join us today. And actually, I just got an email back from Marty Brion. Hernan, you're going to need my phone to call these people anyway. So here, take my phone. You'll find Brion's number in there in my email. And we'll call him. I think I told him at 12:40 our time today. So we'll track him down, talk a little bit about the red-hot start for the Buffalo Sabres. Carter Hutton has like a 1.53 goals against average and a 940 save percentage. Dude's on fire right now.
Wow.
So a nice start there. So yeah, we'll have Chris Abbott from Oddshark. We'll also connect with Marty Brion, who's a broadcaster out in Buffalo now, and of course, obviously played in the National Hockey League as well. And you said you had a Rochester story, so we'll save that for a little bit later.
Yeah,
that'll be good. Also, our sponsors here on Two Guys and a Goalie. Popeyes Chicken. Try Popeyes Legendary Louisiana Chicken today. And Sport Clips Haircuts. We'll play another round of Keep It or Clip It as well. Anything adventurous happened over the last couple of days with you guys since we last spoke on Monday?
I'm starting to take the train kind of to work, and I had a real Keanu Reeves moment.
The train was a runaway, and you saved
I was
it?
going to say, like, what kind
Not
of like
speed, like a real life. You know that video where you see Keanu on the subway and he gets up and gives the old lady. So I'm sitting on the train, and I feel guilty always when I take a seat, just because if that ever happens. So I was physically looking for an old woman so I'd have my moment, and I was sitting there, and then I kind of zoned off in the middle distance, and then I realized that there was an old woman just like maybe a meter away from me, and I was like, oh my God, there she is, and I got up, but the train came to a stop, and I got up and I said, hey, like I motioned towards the seat, and she looked at me with disgust, and that was her stop. So she didn't get to sit down.
Oh.
I missed, and I was hoping someone recorded it, but I missed my moment.
I don't know. I mean, Kass, you can maybe have my back on this one. I don't know if it means as much to let somebody have your seat if you sit down purposely looking to find somebody who needs a seat just so you can look good.
Well, I don't know if it's, I don't know. Yeah, I think it depends why you're doing it. Like, are you doing it because you want to actually have someone feel good and sit down, or are you doing it because you want other people
for myself.
Yeah. It's still not bad to do because you're doing it for yourself, but you're still doing it for other people. I mean, I would rather you do that than just keep your seat selfishly and be like, no matter what, I am not giving this seat up.
Yeah.
You know what I really noticed? If you don't hold on to anything, you really get a good core workout if you're just trying to stand up without any support.
Why would you not hold on to something though?
Because you want to
work.
So you're hitting the gym on the train on
That's
the way
right.
to.
Yeah, I'm flexing like mad on there.
Cass, you ever take the train anywhere in town?
You know what? I when I first I had switched firms to one from that was outside of downtown to one that is downtown, and wasn't sure. Am I going to park downtown? Am I going to take the train in? I'm like, how am I going to do this? So at first I'm like, well, the train's way cheaper. Might as well try that. I don't have to park downtown, deal with downtown traffic. And what I found over time was that every minute I stood on the train, my stress level just kept going tick, 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 tick. And then even more so like on the way home, like on the way there, it was like, whatever, I could deal with it. But then it was on the way home at the end of the day, it's like when I would finish and I would go downstairs and, maybe you missed the train or it just left, or you're having to sit there for like 15 minutes and wait for the next train. And then it was just like every second. It wasn't even like every minute the stress level went up. It was like every second I'm like, I'm waiting for this train. And I'm just sitting here and it was I don't know. I've never been a public transportation person. And I think it's just because I'm so big.
Yeah,
like I'm
I
a
hear
large
you, buddy.
person.
I hear you.
So it's just, I don't fit anywhere well. And then it's like, you're all, just jammed in there. And like, I get that it makes sense. And then half the time I have to run outside of downtown anyways, going to see clients or going to see people or whatever. So I'm like, it just didn't at the end of the day make sense. So I park on the edge of downtown and then walk a little ways. Probably takes me about the same amount of time, but my stress level is way less.
The only time we go on the train is the odd time on the weekend. If we got nothing going on in the morning, we'll take the kids 2 and 4 on the train to the north side and back. I said, we don't even get off the train. We just go for a train ride up and then all the way back down to like Century Park, get back in the car and go home. And it's a great time for them. They think it's the coolest thing in the world. But personally, I don't like it. That's the same thing as you. I just don't like public transit at all. It's just too awkward.
I love it. I'm green, baby.
Really? Oh, okay. So this is a political statement now. That's why you're taking the train.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we need on the podcast. More political statements. All right, lots to get to. Like I said, we got a couple of guests lined up. Hopefully, we can connect with both Kris Abbott from Odd Shark and Martin Brion here at some point. We'll leave that up to Hernan over in the corner. Boy, where do we start? Alexander Ovechkin is here in Edmonton. We'll go there. Kass, you mentioned this, Mikko Rantanen. And the Colorado Avalanche have kind of been living up to some early season hype. They've been looking pretty good. Rantanen and McKinnon picked up right where they left off last year. And now he's labeled as week to week, which could be a pretty significant miss here for the Colorado Avalanche. Your thoughts on what they're like without him, and maybe even more importantly, how that injury happened. It looked like
was weird.
He toe picked and sprained his ankle.
Caught an edge or something and it just twisted and sprained it. Was it ankle? Did they say it was ankle?
I don't think they're trying to say it's
yeah,
but what
ankle
else
or knee. It was ankle, knee.
You think it was knee?
It could have been ankle or knee. One of the two. And it doesn't really matter which. Like they're both. I don't think it's like not like he's needing surgical repair on it. I don't think. So it could be either. But that's weird. And that happens sometimes, like where you catch an edge and it kind of like your skate skips one way a little bit. That was just like overly dramatic, and it was just so weird the way it happened. Like the angle that it turned, it's just weird, a bizarre injury in that moment. And I think it really does impact him.
You think so?
Yeah, we talked before about how, I think I picked them coming out of the West. To make the Stanley Cup final. And he'll still be back in that time, but they've been doing some great things. I think they have a really, really good team, a lot of depth in the defensive end, some young guys I'm sure we're actually going to talk about in a little bit here, specifically in Cale Makar. And so this hurts them a lot. Like if you think of their offensive firepower, like this reduces it by a significant margin. We talk here in Edmonton about the Oilers all the time and about how, they need depth scoring and the bottom six needs to score. And it's like Colorado has the same issue because they're top heavy. Now they solved some of that with like Kadri coming in
and Burakovsky. I like that.
Yeah.
Pickup,
so they balanced out a little bit from last year, but Rantanen is he's a dominant type of player when he's out there because he's big, he's strong, he's fast, and he plays a game like a skill game, but uses his size very, very well. And so I think it makes them a lot, not a bad team all of a sudden, but they're less potent with him in the lineup.
Gage, what do you think about just any team losing a star like the Penguins with Malkin or Rantanen in Colorado, a team losing a star player that early in the season?
It depends on the team, I think, and how much they mean to him. Rantanen means the world to the Colorado Avalanche. But for an injury like that to happen now, better now than January, I'd say. At least he'll be back. Maybe they don't finish as high in the standings without him just because he's those two.
If
are
you
just
miss him for
dominant.
like 6
I mean,
weeks or something,
Just
that could-
imagine
yeah.
if like Leon was injured for a certain amount of time, it would basically be the same here, right?
Do you watch? Have you seen much of Grubauer, Philip Grubauer there with Colorado? Like, do you get a good read on him because he's had a pretty nice start to the year.
Yeah, the other guy too. He went in and I don't know his name, but he did well too. Yeah, it looks like their goaltending.
If they can get a little bit of goaltending, it's going to
Yeah,
go a long
that's
way.
gonna go
Yeah, I think
huge.
that's
Well, they
important.
got good defense too that help out with that. Like it's not.
Well, yeah, because you really like
Yeah.
their blue line. Yeah.
I really like their blue line. I think they got a great blue line.
And they got Byram in the
yeah, he's still
back in
on the
junior,
Western Hockey
so,
League. Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
they're gonna be loaded.
I held him as a 1-year-old. I played with his dad.
Really?
Yeah.
So you held him as a baby, and then
Yeah.
you said you're going to do big things
He
one day,
sucked
kid.
out all my talent.
Did you? That's why Bowen Byram's such an excellent
great player, yeah.
Gager held him as a baby.
His dad
God,
was
what
a
a
beauty,
scary
too.
sight for a baby. Were
Yeah.
you bald then, or did you have that weird little Swedish perm that you had?
No, this was when I won the Hart Trophy in the English League. Actually, toot toot.
You won the MVP of the English League?
Yes, I'm bringing the trophy
Hernan, you're gonna have to
yeah.
look that up. I feel
Hart
like you're
Trophy
just
winner
throwing these out here.
of the British Super League, right here.
God, so
Yeah.
did you get a keeper trophy? Like, did you?
Yeah, it's at home.
Really?
Yeah.
You got to bring that in.
I will.
Is
Maybe I'll just leave it
is
here.
really- People come into the dungeon here and little.
Wow, what's that?
Oh, that's Gager's English League MVP trophy.
Yeah, that was fun. His dad. It's funny because he couldn't skate worth a lick. Oh my gosh, he was terrible skater. Good
his kid
hands
can
and
wheel.
stuff, but his kid is unbelievable. That's
Dusty,
where I think.
I looked it up here.
Yeah.
So during the 2001-2002 season, Gage was named MVP of the British Super League while playing for the Irish Scottish Eagles.
Okay, but wait a
It's
second.
pronounced air.
Air, okay.
Is that on Gager's Wikipedia page?
It is.
Which is
Can we
probably
see if
updated by Gager.
Can we see if Gager was the one that added that?
I'm going to start updating your Wikipedia page with other random stuff as well. We'll see if anybody catches on. The Washington Capitals are making their way through Canada right now. As teams will do, they'll come out, get the West Coast swing. They look really good once again. I mean, not that we shouldn't have expected them to look pretty good. John Carlson, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the week. He leads the league in points right now. He's got 20. Alexander Ovechkin has 7 goals in 11 games, kind of flying under the radar, but he's off to a pretty good start. Oshie's got 7 goals as well. I wanted to talk a little bit, and Kass, you mentioned we were going to talk a little bit about the defensemen because, we saw it last year, and St. Louis had a few of them, but Alex Pietrangelo, really solid guy they brought up, developed all the way through. John Carlson, excellent example of, a team just having a top pairing guy. He's a top pairing guy. He can play on your power play. He can play in all situations. Back in the day, wherever Chris Pronger went, not to compare the two, but he always went along and, had success. You see some of these defensemen, and I know you need a whole group, but Cale Makar in Colorado, Quinn Hughes looks fun. Every time I watch Vancouver, Quinn Hughes is ridiculous already. Your thoughts on just having that one elite defenseman that some teams have looked for a long time, not just here in Edmonton, but like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Morgan Riley's pretty good, but for a long time before Riley kind of developed, they were always looking for somebody like that. How much does that change the entire picture of a club?
Huge.
Just one guy, right?
Just one guy, and it makes such a big difference because when you look at especially playoffs, those guys are playing 25 to 30 minutes a night.
half the game.
Half the game. When you have an elite talent on the ice for half the game, makes a massive difference. Massive difference. Like it's huge. Like how many teams, if we go through the last 10 years of Stanley Cups, and how many teams that have won the cup have not had that clear-cut number one, let's call it stud defenseman.
A guy that you could probably win the Norris that year.
Yeah, a guy that could potentially win the Norris on any given year. Like, can you think of any teams that didn't have him?
No.
Do we have to go all the way back to Carolina in 2006? Like that's always the year that people talk about, right? Like,
Okay, so one.
yeah, but that's what I mean. Your point is proven.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
that's,
going to
and
disagree
that's
with you.
13 years ago.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it doesn't. And that was a win by committee type of team, anyways. And who are they playing against in the finals?
Yeah.
Well, they're playing against a team that was run by the aforementioned Chris Pronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really hard to go deep in the playoffs without those guys because they just take up so much time on the ice.
He's all around just awesome too. Like he's physical, mean.
Oh, Pronger?
Carlson.
No,
Oh,
Carlson.
Carlson.
Yeah.
Carlson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carlson plays with a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah. He's not
he
a
kind of
soft-
flies under the radar because he's so good offensively. But
The last I watched a lot of that Calgary game. I like watching Calgary games, not because it's the Flames. I like the camera angles because it's the old camera angles where you're kind of closer to the ice and
it's a little bit lower down.
yeah. Just I'm excited about tonight's game. Just I don't think the Oilers have really played a real physical team like the Capitals. Like the Capitals like to finish every check, and so it'll be a really good test. I'm excited to watch.
Yeah,
this one.
I think for their defensemen too, because if I was looking at if I'm looking at the last couple games where they've struggled and haven't scored in the last 2 games, when the opposing team has been really physical and aggressive on the forecheck, like when they've attacked the Edmonton Oilers defensemen, they've struggled a little bit. Like that is when they have struggled a little bit, and I think part of it is because they just maybe haven't been as smooth in transition out of the zone. And then in the offensive zone, the same thing. Like there's a little bit more aggression there, and that has pushed some of the Oilers guys or forwards to the outside, and they're trying to force passes through the middle and just really disturbing the skill speed game that they want to play.
Let me ask you this, Dusty. So
You're asking me questions.
Yeah,
What?
the
Whoa.
expert.
This is
We
weird.
never ask you questions, so
No.
I was always,
I'm nervous.
put your coach's hat on here.
Uh-oh.
And so, with the Capitals' aggressive style of forechecking, who do you put in goal? Would you put in Smith that maybe handles the puck a little bit better, but came off the 3-0 loss last game, or do you go with the big Finn?
Wow, Gager, thanks for the question, and what an excellent
Can we
question
write
it
down
was.
great question? Because
Yeah.
last week you said Kass had a
Yeah.
good. I just thought.
Well, I don't think it counts when you ask me.
And I didn't. And you, I mean, that's a self-proclaimed great question.
Yeah. So
Listen, I'm going to ask you a really good question. Yeah, I guess it would make sense to start Mike Smith.
I think so.
I mean, I guess there would be some. We always talk about his ability to play the puck, just generally. But there would be some teams who get in on forecheck where, like, from a strategic perspective, it would probably be better to go with Mike Smith just to relieve the pressure. Like
Yeah.
a lot. I would think that'd be a pretty significant advantage in a game like that.
yeah, one of the reasons why I thought they should have started Koskinen in the last game. In my
Get
opinion.
Koskinen in that game and then go to Smith against
Jason
Washington.
Gregor here on 1260 in the city. We had a conversation about it, and he disagreed with me strongly.
And he'll never give up on that.
No, and he will never give up on that. And I was like, well, I mean, I know they did. Mike Smith just started 1 game, but you should have started Koskinen yesterday, and then you roll Smith back in today. But that's me.
Speaking of Gregory, he had a pizza event here in town. You were there last night. Now, Gager, how many slices of pizza did you have at this thing?
Well, if you really put it together, I probably had about a medium-sized thick crust, but a large thin.
Okay, so that's not too bad. So somewhere in between.
Somewhere in
So
between.
what's that, like 6-7 slices you took down, or that's
Yeah.
pretty, it's pretty disgusting, man.
Oh, no. There was some really good pizza there.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of different. Basically, it was like a charity event. A bunch of different pizza places came. Then you paid money for charity. You went in and
I hate to say it, but that was a pretty good idea. But didn't a guy in Calgary does it? So Gregor's just piggybacking on someone else.
And you know what? It's raising money. I'm fine.
yeah,
That's good.
that's true.
That's right.
Anything's a good cause for charity. That's good. Okay, I was wondering.
Not
about
anything.
And I met
No?
young Yaremchuk's girlfriend. Wow, that guy way out of his league.
Let's just leave
Way
it. Let's
out of
just leave it at that. Yaremchuk with the Nation Network, though. A lot of people are probably familiar with Tyler Yaremchuk. Cass, you want to go down that path, or?
I'm not touching that.
I didn't think
Yeah.
so. I didn't think so. That's okay. Okay, Alexander Ovechkin gracing Western Canada with his presence this week. He's got 665 career goals already. I did the math earlier today. If he was to score 45 this year, he's already got 7. If he was to score 45 this year, that leaves him at 703 through his career. He's 34 years old. He'll be 35 at the beginning of next season. He would be 191 goals behind Wayne Gretzky heading into his 35-year-old season. Does it happen? Does he track down Wayne Gretzky? I'm not. This isn't even a keep it or clip it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, does he track him down? I want to know.
I don't think so. I think there'll be a fall off. Like it's going to be really tough. Well, but see, here's the flip side. I know it just I go because I keep going back and forth in my head. It's like I think there's going to be a fall off, but I think the trend in what? Yeah, I'm switching. I'm jumping ship. I'm going to say he does it, and I think because even more so this year than in years past, where we've seen like a lot of players with these 3-goal games, 4-goal games, 5-point games that. The players and I know we chatted about a little bit when Sean Bell was here earlier. I can't remember which episode that was. Or he was here.
It's
for
the
a
one
couple.
when Gager bailed on us.
Yeah, and I was gone. Well, I bailed on one, and he was here
it's
too.
true.
Young players coming into the game or playing the game dramatically different than it used to be played, and there's a lot less structure. There's more free flow, and I think scoring is going to go up just based on the nature of how people are trying to play the game. So I kind of go, well, you know what? I think there's going to be a drop off as he gets older. However, I think changes to the style of the game are going to enable him to continue to score. Even if he loses a step from a speed standpoint, he scores a lot of goals in the power play, and that's not going away anytime soon. So you know what? Maybe he does get there. So I'm just going to go for the sake of it today. I'm going to say, yeah, he gets it.
If he can get 40 a year till he's 39, he gets it.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
That's going to be really tough. Like we look at Yager and see kind of at the tail end where he dropped off, if he's going to get there. But it'll be fun to watch. Regardless, he is, I would argue that he is the best goal scorer, pure goal scorer, not best all-around player, but best pure goal scorer of all time. Like what he's doing in the modern game is ridiculous.
Gage, what do you think?
I hope he does. I don't think he will, but I hope that he's getting close. That'll be the best year of hockey watching if he starts getting close to it. They'll show those games and especially when he comes up on one of these Canadian swings. Like if he starts scoring, the crowd's going to go nuts. It's going to be like chasing the home run record and things like that. It'll be and Gretzky. I remember I was at a charity event and he did say that he thinks that Alex might. This is one of his records that he might break.
Dusty, I got a great question. I got a great question. An amazing question.
You got to say it after.
That's so greasy.
When was it?
I'm making notes.
When was the last time in the NHL that you have been able to watch like a player for the entirety of a season and had that kind of excitement? Not for a team like making the playoffs, but for a player to hit a milestone. When was the last time you remember seeing that in the NHL?
You know what? This is funny you mention it because I was just, that's exactly what I was going to say when Gager said it. I said, you just don't get those moments in sports very often at all anymore. Like you really don't see it a little bit in the NBA. Some of these guys creeping up there with Michael Jordan records and things along those lines. The last time it happened in hockey, man, I can't even remember. Like I was pretty young when Gretzky was going around, the backhand upstairs to get 1851 or whatever. But yeah, I can't remember another time.
See, I remember Timu because the celebration was awesome.
When he's going for the rookie record.
Yeah, and he threw the glove and then did the shotgun thing. That's the last one.
But think about how long ago that was.
Yeah.
What about you, Kass? I mean, did you have one, or were you just wanted to ask a great question?
No, I just wanted to ask a great, awesome, amazing, unbelievable question.
You really did. Yeah, I can't really think about like in all sports. Like in my lifetime, or at least my sports viewing lifetime, the chase for 61 homers was huge.
I remember that.
I remember getting home from work or school or wherever and turning on SportsCenter and seeing what McGuire and Sosa did. And they were cutting in for every at bat. You just don't see that very often anymore. It's actually pretty fun. I hope we get to see it because that'd be an amazing,
that'd be a blast.
Amazing trip. Who we're gonna have first turn? And we're gonna have Chris Abbott from Oddshark.
Yeah, he just asked for a couple minutes, so we should have him in about 2-3 minutes.
Okay, and have you touched base with Marty Brion too?
He'll
try
be
to get
about
him at 12:40.
12:40.
Yeah, so we might go back to back on that one. I wanted this thought because the Oilers have gone, and this isn't just an Oilers related topic. This is for all of Canada, but just an example here. The Oilers have gone 2 games without scoring a goal, and all hell's breaking loose here with the fan base. Whereas Mikko Rantanen, down in Colorado, he's going to be out 6 weeks, and because we're not down there, we're not really connected with it too much. Kass, you played in both Ottawa and Minnesota, right? Like you played in a Canadian market and an American market. How different is it? Like how is it significantly like?
Well,
my God!
I'm going to tell the story.
Okay.
So, in Ottawa, my second year there, I go to the grocery store. It's like 3 or 4 minutes from our house. Walk into the store, start putting stuff in, grabbing some vegetables, healthy stuff.
Good for you.
Great, yeah. And one of the gentlemen that works at the store walks up. And he just looks at me and he's just like, "So why do you guys suck?" And I was just like, well, you know what? There's lots going on where, there's been some challenges. We've been really struggling. We're working hard. We're trying to sort it out. And he's like, it would turn into a 5-minute conversation about how poor we've been playing. And in Minnesota, I would go to the grocery store 2 minutes from my house and I would walk through the store and I would get, vegetables and healthy stuff. And then I'd go through and get whatever else I need to, and then go to the checkout and I'd pay, and then I'd put everything in the car and I'd drive back home, and
You lived a regular life.
I lived a regular life outside the rink. And, people would stop you on occasion and say something or recognize you or whatever. And you'd have conversations with them, and you even have similar conversations with them. But in Canada, it's everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's wonderful that fans are passionate and people care. But it's such a different atmosphere and environment. It's like where I can't even imagine, like for a Connor McDavid or for like a Johnny Gaudreau or like these guys that are just the superstar big name players. Like it just must be absolutely nuts. Like even being on the road in Canada is different where, when you go to Toronto and you're trying to go, we call them seekers, like autograph seekers. The people that are trying to get you to sign memorabilia or cards, and the guys with like 4 pages of cards that they want Erik Carlson to sign, that they're trying to sell them all. Like it's just different in Canada. In the States, you'd have a couple, but not like that. Not like that. And I mean, I learned pretty quick how to avoid some of those situations by just walking immediately behind the superstars, because then no one ever bothers me.
You got guys like Gage out there signing like crazy.
I just walk right behind Gage, because then everyone's going to be like, Gage, sign my card. Gage, sign my jersey. Gage, sign my stick. And for me, it's just like, I just walk right behind them. Like, no one's going to ask me anything because they don't care about me. They want Gage's stuff. So,
I just passed a bunch of them coming here, actually. Came out of they were waiting across from the Marriott there.
Yeah.
And like, every time I see these guys, you remember that, that movie with Jim Carrey, Pet Detective, when he's trying to...
Ace Ventura?
Ace Ventura,
Yeah.
when he's trying to figure out the diamonds and the rings, and he's going to all the sports, and he's got zits, and he's greasy, and I'm just like, you guys are my age out here, and they got all their books and all their stuff.
Yeah, but I get, like, I know where some of them, they're trying to make some money, trying to make a living. They're actually putting time in. And you know what's funny is I walked by the same group a little while ago, was when I did the mustard seed. So at a local charity here in Edmonton, did office chair races downtown, which was an amazing event. And I was walking back with some of my coworkers. So I was wearing like a sweatshirt and I had a pair of like running pants underneath, like shorts, and walking back, and those guys recognized me. They're like, hey man, how you doing? And it was from like a block away where I could see him go like this and kind of lean over and start to look. And so there's a lot of them for as much as you're kind of like, well, it feels like it's greasy for them just to get a whole bunch of signatures and to sell it on eBay, because it's not like, not all of them are just collecting it for themselves. I look at it and I go, you know what? If they're selling it and people are buying it, it's because people want it and people are valuing it, and they're adding to the fan dynamic of the game. And so I appreciate what they're doing. Sometimes I think it's a little bit overboard. We had once it was like a flock of them pursuing Carlson in Toronto. He didn't want to deal with it that day. And there was about 20, they followed him for 6 or 7 blocks, like walking the entire way. Like it was like a pack of them around him trying to get him to sign stuff. So sometimes it's a little excessive, but I get it.
Did you ever think, and this is what I thought about when you mentioned the guys recognizing you just recently, they're just big fans of the Two Guys and a Goalie podcast, and they're like, Kass,
I mean, that makes more sense.
You're one of the 2 guys.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
That's the only way I get noticed these days.
I thought it was because you're roguishly handsome, good looks, Gager.
Now that you mention it.
All right, we got Kris Abbott from Oddshark. He's going to join us. Kris, are you a sports memorabilia collector or what?
God, no. I've got enough junk in my place. I don't need sports memorabilia. I can't even say the word memorabilia. Nah, not at all for me. I've got a couple of things like, from back in the day when I played. Like I have a couple of keepsakes from when I coached. But as for keeping like another grown man's property, no, I'm not interested.
So you don't want that Gage signed jersey?
Well, that's already in the mail.
Well,
so
yeah, I'll give you the tracking number.
Yeah, it's game used. Game used signed Gager jersey.
Brand new.
Gager bought it online for $60 just to send it to you. Hey, we were just talking about Alexander Ovechkin. If he scores 45 this year, he will be 190-some behind Wayne Gretzky as he heads into his 35th season. Do you think there's a chance he tracks him down? Or his 35-year-old season, I should say. Do you think he tracks him down?
I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, that guy is a goal-scoring machine, obviously. So if he can stay healthy and Washington's power play is working well over the next couple of years, I mean, I think he could. I also think he's the kind of guy that if he sets his mind to the fact that he wants to do that, he could probably play till he was 42 if he wanted to. But, obviously a lofty goal. We don't see a lot of those records fall these days anymore. So I'd like to see him go for it.
Yeah, I'd like to see him take a run at it.
What are the
too.
odds of that? Can we bet on that at all yet?
Will Ovechkin get Gretzky? We asked last week and you came through with some odds.
You know what? I will. I'll ask. I'll check on that. The coach fired odds were up pretty quick, boys. I thought I was pretty impressed with myself after that one.
Yeah, when you tweeted me out that, I was just like, wow, nice work, Kris. Knows some people in the biz. that was great. How good of bet would it have been all along here? And I know you can do this at certain sites. Just for John Carlson to get a point right now, you must have just been cashing in if you were all over that.
John Carlson's on my fantasy team, so that's a good thing. You can bet on that. You can bet on Carlson to get a point every game, and for a defenseman, it would probably be around even money most days. So I'd say it's not for him right now. I haven't looked at it specifically, but I'm sure the juice is a little bit higher, as they call it. That's the price to place your bet. So when you see minus something in front of your bet, that means that the sportsbook is taking on more risk and charging you more to get back your initial amount. So, it's been unbelievable. It really, really has. So it's something to check into. Point scorers, goal scorers. You can probably still some places find over/under points. We talked about it before that McDavid's points total for the season was 116. So if you took under that, you've got a good sweat going on already, and it's not even November.
Kris Abbott with us from OddsShark. I've got another one for you, Kris. When you look at early season betting, like at what point do you start to see trends sort of settle down and for things to kind of get into a regular routine with some of these teams? Is there a point in the season where you can't say, it's early in the year right now and we're not too sure how this is going to impact a game?
Well, we're getting there. Like I would say the 4 to 6 week mark, as long as, teams are healthy and they're rolling out the same lineup every night. For example, the Buffalo Sabres, I'm sure you guys have talked about this today. They're 8-1-1, but they're still only minus 120 going into New York tonight. I've already put money on them. They're the most profitable bet in the league. If you bet $100 on every Sabres game so far, which is 10 games, you'd be up $700. So almost $100 a game is the profit there. They've been outstanding. So, I think it's starting to shake out. And the same thing, it's probably, if you think a team is going to come back around, like we talked about the Dallas Stars last week, or maybe, the San Jose Sharks come back around a little bit, now's a good time to get some money on them because people are undervaluing them.
Hey, did you get into this business because of the money, the show Two for the Money? Do you remember that movie with Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago. There's a few good sports betting movies out there. Most of them paint the sports bettor as like a degenerate who's wasted all his family's money and he's got someone coming to break his legs and he's got to go coach a youth baseball team in the projects. Shout out to our man, Keanu Reeves.
Great movie.
Yeah, right? What was that called? Hardball, maybe?
Yeah.
Never seen it.
Yeah.
You never saw Hardball?
I've seen most movies.
Buddy, God, come on, man. Sorry, Kris. I apologize for Cassie. That's awful.
I'm sorry.
I thought pro athletes have seen all the movies just because of all the travel. I thought you guys all ran out of them.
That's a good point. How did you spend time on your road trips?
Well, you watch the same movies. So it's like if the team doesn't have that one, you watch other ones.
That sucks.
Hey, Kris,
That's
I was
right. You only seen Slapshot 4,000 times, right?
I was checking out your website there actually this morning. Do you use any beard products? Because that thing was looking great.
Oh, that's actually an old picture. I got to be honest.
No, not that one. I was. It was the live picture. You got a little salt and pepper down in the middle, and then you're going dark down the sides. I like that.
Oh yeah. No, that's au naturel, my friend.
Wow.
I never had.
No, just for men for you, huh?
I never had a beard for the longest time, man. I worked on TV, and the guy I worked for, he was like George Steinbrenner, wanted us to be clean shaven. And after I left that job, I just grew it out, and it covered up my extra chin pretty good. And people told me it looked good with the bald head, so I just rolled with it. Yeah, no, this is a work in progress, my friend.
It's like early, like reverse Jay Leno kind of. Sweet.
Kris Abbott has a reverse Jay Leno going. Kris, we appreciate the time. We'll let you go, buddy.
Absolutely, boys. Have a great day.
There you go. That's Kris Abbott from OddsShark. I thought we should let him go before Gage made it more awkward. The compliments were just flying, though.
Yeah, no one knows what he like. We got to know more about this guy. He's on once a week. He's a good guy.
Do you ever go full beard? I mean, Kass said you roll that beard quite often. Right?
Typically, I'm like beard or goatee. Like I probably haven't been like completely clean shaven in 6 years, maybe 7 years.
Jeez.
It's been a long time. I don't like it.
Gage, you ever go deeper, like longer than you got right now?
I wish I could, but it's
just
too
looks-
patchy.
Really?
Yeah.
Even as a grown man in his 40s.
Well, and there's lots of gray now, so it's
Yeah, but
terrible.
sometimes that's what's a distinguished. It's a distinguished
Yeah.
look.
I get a lot of looks, but I don't think it's because I think it looked good.
That's not the reason.
No.
All right, we're gonna play. I mean, I can't believe that you haven't seen Hardball, Cass.
I mean,
You should watch that. You
we're
would
doing
like
this
that
every
movie.
week. Like, should we do like a segment where we're like a chunk of the show where we talk about like movies that I have not seen?
Well, it
because
seems-
we've
yeah.
hit like what Point Break,
What-
Hardball. There was another one. What was the other one?
Twister.
Twister.
Yeah, you didn't see Twister,
Yeah,
either.
my wife does that all the time. She's like, you haven't seen that movie? I'm like, nope.
Gager, did you cry during Hardball?
There was that was too long ago, and probably late at night I watched that movie.
You guys,
so
you both got to watch it again. You'll
Yeah.
cry. I guarantee you'll cry.
I cry at
cry.
most. I
You'll
cry
cry.
at most things.
Yeah, really?
I cried a lot.
Yeah.
I'm an emotional guy.
I can't watch like a America's Got Talent without having to leave the room.
Those ones
Really?
I don't. Yeah, I don't tear up at those ones.
What?
No.
Yeah, you have to.
I feel like they're so contrived though, because it's just like they're just, sometimes some of them are real, but some of them it's almost like I feel like they're making them up just to try to get an emotional pull. Like they're creating it for
Yeah.
the purpose of trying to get people like you to be like, this is so sad, I need to vote for them. I'm going to text in 40 times and they're going to charge me $40 for these texts.
I guarantee you cannot. You'll cry watching that kid. I think he was autistic. He was the piano singer.
So there's some like on occasion where you're like, yeah, okay, like in that where it's like clearly okay, that one you get it.
Okay.
I get it. That one I could see tearing up and completely excuse it, but
I
like,
thought he didn't have a heart.
yeah, if you like
I
saw
think he's such an emotional guy, but what a prick.
what, because I don't like someone's just like, yeah, it was really hard. Like I had to learn how to play guitar by myself, and this would mean the world to me if I got this audition opportunity. And you're just like, it means the world to everybody,
Cass, stop.
buddy.
You're making Gage your tear up right now. If you had time, you're a busy guy with kids and stuff. But if you had time, I'd love to give you a movie assignment every once in a while, and you could see it.
No, it's not going to happen.
What? God,
I don't have time. It'd be fun, but I don't have
You
time.
got to watch Hardball. We'll play Keep It or Clip It a little bit later on. Hernan's trying to track down Marty Brion. We'll talk about the incredible start for the Buffalo Sabres. They've been absolutely outstanding. For a few years now, I think last year, at the beginning of the year, the Sabres were my sexy pick. I was just like, this is the team, this is the year, and then it didn't happen. And you know what? This kind of comes back around to the conversation we had a little bit earlier in the show today. Rasmus Dahlin. They used the first overall pick on him last year. He was a stud last year as an 18-year-old. I think he had like 40 points. He was off to a great start this year as well. That's another example of having, a Carlson type back in his prime, especially in Ottawa, that just changes the game. Gage and Kass hit on the D thing earlier, but what about you from a goaltender perspective? When you have a guy that good who could arguably be the best player on the ice whenever he's out there, and he's out there in front of you for 27 minutes a night, it must just make things so much easier.
Yeah, it does. And well, I'll say this: my Hart Trophy winning year, I had a friend of the show, Ian Herbers, as my
really?
Yeah, and Herbie, the old octopi, he cleared the net, man. He was. I wouldn't be where I am today without Herbie. That's for sure.
Wait a second. You wouldn't be sitting between Kass and I doing a podcast in a basement if it wasn't for Ian Herbers?
But Herbie, he was great, man. He was not too offensive, but he played a ton, and he just it was almost impossible to get around him, and he was just so responsible defensively. It was great because you knew guys weren't getting second chances when he was on the ice. It means a world to a goalie to have a defenseman with the caliber of an Ian Herbers.
Oh, Gager. Yeah, that's good.
I'm just trying to get free tickets to U of A games.
Yeah, hey, buddy, I can get you free tickets to U of A games. Yeah. You don't need to suck up to Herbie. You can suck up to me for those tickets. Okay, we were talking about elite defensemen. Rasmus Dahlin is one of them. Our next guest, Marty Brion, who, of course, played in the league for a long time, is transferred over to the media side of things. And, Marty, we appreciate the time. Thanks a lot for joining us, buddy.
Anytime. You guys seem to be having fun right now. Just listening to you guys chuckle, so that's good.
Yeah, we try to have a little bit of fun. It's not too bad. How are you enjoying the transition? You've been doing it for a little while now to the media side of things. Did you always think that would be a thing for you?
Yeah, I love it. Listen, when I retired, I was kind of done with the grind of practicing and playing. I love practice, but knowing like if I was being told like my last year, was a lockout shortened year of 2012-13. So we only played like 48 games, and Lundqvist played almost all of them. And so when you haven't played in a month, and then John Tortorella comes to you and he says, "Hey, listen, you're going to play this weekend, and you better give me a good one." It was like one of those things. I was like, I better go home. Like, I don't want to play anymore. Like, that's it for me. So it was more like, okay, I'm ready to move on to something else. I had done some work at TSN during the playoffs a few years before that. I had done some work with RDS in Quebec and some other things with many different media outlets. So I was ready to move on, and luckily for me, the phone rang the week after, and I was able to jump right in there.
Gage, do you know anything about not playing for a month at a time, or what?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got a lot of experience with that. Marty, you probably don't remember me, but I played against you a few times when you were in Rochester. I was always amazed when I would see you off the ice because there wasn't much to you, but it seemed like as soon as you got on the ice, you looked like King Kong. I wondered when you were playing in Rochester, just for maybe the young goalies out there, because you did have Dominic playing with the Sabres. What was it like knowing that obviously you didn't want to spend too much time in Rochester, but how did you approach wanting to become like the starting goalie in Buffalo?
Okay, well, first of all, I do remember you playing in the American League when I was in Rochester. I think a little bit in Syracuse, and I think I remember mostly in Hamilton. So anyway, So I mean that's one thing. Two, when I played against you in the American League, yeah, I was maybe 170 pounds, 6'2", but I had the biggest cheater all over my equipment. So I looked huge in that because I had cheaters everywhere, like in my chest and arm, in my pants. In my knees, I was cheating like you wouldn't believe. But then after that, I had to just find a way to make my equipment legal and at the same time be able to feel big and athletic in that. But when I got drafted, I was very naive because in my mind I was thinking I'm going to make the NHL right away. Right? You draft in the first round.
Yeah.
I had a great year in juniors as a 17-year-old. I'm thinking I'm ready for the NHL, and then you first go to training camp and you realize, well, that's not what I thought it was going to be. It's a lot harder. The players are more mature. They shoot the puck harder. They usually would gain confidence coming down to my end of practice in my first training camp because they knew they were going to just abuse me, and it was good for them because at the other end was Dominic Hasek, or it was Andrei Trefilov, or it was Steve Shields and Rob Stauber. So those were the goalies my first training camp, and I think I got a really quick wake-up call in my first preseason game. We played St. Louis, and I came in halfway in the game for Hasek, and Dom had just made 5 or 6 saves where he's rolling around and his legs are kicking in the air. And the first shot I faced was from Chris Pronger, and he shot from center ice, and it squeaked through my leg, and I had to pull it back before it went into the net. So I say a very quick wake-up call, welcome to the NHL, and then I knew I was going to need some time in the American League to be able to get back to the level I wanted to be. And I had some great teachers. I had Mitch Gorn first off in Buffalo. He was great. I had Jim Corsi after that in Buffalo. He was awesome. So I really learned a lot from those guys.
So when did you know, Marty, that you were ready to make that transition from the AHL to the NHL?
My second year in the American League, we were unbelievable. Our team was great. I won goalie of the year. I was runner-up for MVP, so I knew that I was ready. I dominated at the AHL level, and I wanted to go to the NHL. The next training camp, so we're talking about 99-2000, I was probably the best goalie in camp for the Sabres. Listen, there was Dwayne Rollison, there was Dominic Hasek, and I had the best training camp of everybody, and they still sent me down to Rochester. And I remember getting into a bit of a, I don't want to say a yelling match, but an argument, because I was not taking it at the end of training camp that I was going down to Rochester. But instead of moaning and, you know, kicking around dirt or whatever, I went down to Rochester, started the season 6-0, and I got called up, and then Dom got hurt. And at that moment, I was like, I know I should be in the NHL. I'm going to do everything I need to do to get back to the NHL. And starting the season 6-0 in Rochester really, you know, did me some good. They knew I'm in business. I had, you know, often puff a little bit at the end of training camp because I was going back to Rochester, but I put my mouth where the money was, and I started the season on fire, and they knew I'm in business.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about the Buffalo Sabres and the start that they're on, but I do want to know when you're watching, you're trying to crack the Sabres, and Dominic Hasek's there, and you mentioned some of the saves he's making. Did you ever just get to the rink by yourself and lay on your belly a bit and kick your legs up around and be like, I wonder if this is what I need to do? Like, can I be this guy?
Well, one practice, I remember we were doing power play, and I dropped my stick to try to pick up the puck with my blocker hand because Hasek was notorious for doing that. And two guys came in and slashed my hand, and I had like my thing for like 2 weeks. I'm like, nope, Dom does his thing. I have to take something else because nobody could do what Hasek was doing. Even if you tried to, it just, your body could not achieve the flexibility and the contortionist aspect of it that his body could do.
All right, the Buffalo Sabres are off to an absolutely incredible start. Ralph Kruger has that team firing on all cylinders, and we were talking about it before we brought you on. We kind of always felt like the Sabres, you know, they get Jack Eichel. Now they've got Rasmus Dahlin, so they've put some pieces in place to have success. They are having success so far this year. What would you say has been the key to the great start here for Buffalo?
Their defensive play, and maybe that sounds crazy, but even you look at the game that they won in overtime against San Jose at home. Casey Middlestat makes a great defensive play on 3-on-3, and then he springs Ristolainen on for a 2-on-1 with Eichel. But the effort that the guys are putting coming back into the zone, the structure in the defensive zone, it makes life easier on the defense. It makes life easier on the goaltenders. They don't seem to be running around. They're not giving up glorious opportunities in the slot like they were the last few years. And I think that's coaching, and I think that's guys buying into a system. You know, you get a new coach. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit for that new coach to really gain the confidence of the player. But Ralph Kruger is such a good communicator, and I think he's gotten the attention of the players from the start of training camp. And it's showing right now. They're buying in. I'm buying in, and I'm just listening to his press conference. I don't even, I'm not even in the meetings. I'm not in the locker room. And every time this guy talks, I want to take it all in. So that's how good of a communicator he is, and how much the guys have bought into what he wants to do with the team.
So we all talk all the time here about Rasmus, not all the time, but about Rasmus Dahlin and how good he is. We just spent a period of time talking about it today. Who has been the biggest surprise in a good way for the Buffalo Sabres on defense this year?
Oh, wow. There's two that comes to mind. One is Colin Miller. Colin Miller was traded from Vegas to Buffalo, and I think that Colin Miller is a really good addition to that group. He plays with Rasmus Dahlin, so obviously those two have played really well together. Dahlin's had some up and down, but I think Miller is a calming presence for him. It works well. The second one is Henry Jokiharju, and Jokiharju came in a Nylander trade to Chicago, and I talked to some players in Chicago and in the minors, and they said this guy he's going to be a. And we're already seeing it. He's 20 years old. He's got tons of confidence. So those are two of the newcomers that have really surprised me and impressed me. And that's why their defensive core is so much better, because now you can, although they're playing Rasmus Ristolainen a ton, but you can limit Risto's minute. You can limit Marcos Candella's minute, and you can put a little bit more on the shoulder of Miller and Jokiharju, and that's a good thing.
Marty, we appreciate the time, buddy. Thanks a lot for popping by today on the podcast.
Anytime you guys want me, I'm available. So good luck, and have a good rest of the day.
There you go.
Thanks,
That's
Marty.
Martin Brion, who probably beat Gager a couple times in the American Hockey League.
I don't think I've ever won a game against him. No.
Let's call him in 5 minutes.
Yeah, once
I
again,
always say anytime 5 minutes.
we have so many suckers who keep saying, "Oh, come on, anytime." You have no idea how much we're going to take advantage of this.
You guys don't understand. I'm not shitting you. That guy was a rake, and all of a sudden he put on all that gear, and you couldn't see any net. It was he was an unbelievable goalie. I thought that. I don't think anyone understands what a good goalie he actually was. When he won the MVP of the American League that year, it was just. I mean, Rochester was good, so you had to go through so many layers just to get the puck at him, and you couldn't score on him. He was unbelievable.
Gager, did you ever were you big into wearing cheaters?
No, I just found that out a couple minutes ago. I might still be playing.
You still saw the goalies. It's so many like the knee pads and the extra things.
The French guys, I hate to say it, they always cheated a little bit more. There was another.
You think J.S. Jaguar was cheating?
A little, but there was another goalie named Martin Brochu, and they put these because they started the first kind of movement on your knees. Like they weren't getting back to their feet. Yeah. They were moving a lot on their knees, and Patrick Waugh did. But they had these little extra blades that they would attach to the toes of their skates so they could dig in better. And
really?
It was and I guarantee Brion had those too. It was a French thing.
I think he's obviously a great character guy because he admitted to cheating right here on the podcast today. So that was nice
and
to see.
Great eyes.
Respect.
He had the best eyes I've ever seen.
Like beautiful eyes to look into.
Unbelievable.
Get lost in
really?
them.
Yeah. They're deep pools of blue.
They look like vampire eyes.
It's like going to the Caribbean looking at him.
All right. Okay.
All right.
And he smells of pineapple.
Moving on.
All right, let's quickly get to your Popeyes chicken poll question. Try Popeyes legendary Louisiana chicken today because we still need to hammer through sports clip haircuts, keep it or clip it. This is a good question. And actually, we didn't talk about the one guy on this list who's off to a great start with Buffalo. But which NHL rookie has impressed you the most so far? Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, Victor Olofsson, or Cody Glass, who's kind of flying under the radar but making a pretty good impact for the Golden Knights here in the early going. So, Kass, who would you go with?
Well, it depends on how I read the question. Like, impressed is I think impressed is like surpassed expectations.
Okay.
So I would say Cale Makar.
Okay.
But I expected him to be really good. So he hasn't surpassed. He's just met expectations.
You expected him to be
I expected him to be like this. Quinn Hughes, I'm gonna say Quinn Hughes has impressed me the most out of I expected him to come in and be solid and be good, and he has been beyond that to me. He's been stellar. And a lot of fun to watch, from a defensive standpoint. He's like your modern, what you want from a modern offensive defenseman. Like his play style and the way he jumps in and out and reads the play, a lot of fun to watch. So I'm gonna say Quinn Hughes. He's impressed me the most out of those four.
You're going with Gager?
Well, I got to go with the same guy a little bit.
Oh, come on.
But
Copycat.
I mentioned him a couple weeks ago.
You've had a crush on Quinn Hughes for a while.
You know what? I probably would go with Makar, but I think just because of his play last year in the playoffs, it's not surprising how good he is because we've already kind of had a look at him. It'd be more of a surprise if he wasn't playing that well, I guess. But no, I just the way Quinn Hughes is playing right now, I think out of that group, Olofsson, I only see highlights of him, so
he looks good though.
He looks really good.
I
gotta try to watch a Sabres game and put the ISO cam on him. But Quinn Hughes.
You're committed there. Put the ISO cam on Olofsson. Yeah, that's good.
I like it.
All right, let's do sports clips, haircuts, keep it or clip it. They're actually going to have the Grey Cup at the Ellerslie Landing location here of Sport Clips this weekend on Saturday, starting at noon. So if you're listening to this at Edmonton, you want to go get a look at the Grey Cup and maybe get the MVP experience when you're there. You can do that as well. So that's coming up this Saturday at Sport Clips down in Ellerslie. All right, boys, let's do this. And this isn't me making this up, so I don't want people coming to me. I saw somebody else mention this online, a member of the media, I believe with TSN, might have been Sportsnet, whatever. Either way, it's not me. The Toronto Maple Leafs aren't a cup contender. Keep it or clip it.
I'm going to clip it. Until they're out of the playoff race, they will be a cup contender. They have a lot of offensive talent. Yes, they haven't been playing up to snuff. Yes, they've been struggling in a lot of ways. Yes, there's some issues there, but they are still a cup contender. They haven't completely fallen out of it yet.
I'll say keep it, but in the context of let's say 9-game segments, they in this segment they're not a cup contender. It's too early in the season to say.
So you're saying the way they're playing now, you don't.
They're not even close to.
Not even close.
No, I don't think so. There's too much going on. I don't like it.
Number 2. The Vancouver Canucks will end up with the most points in Western Canada. Keep it or clip it.
Does that mean like Calgary, Edmonton?
Sorry, Calgary, Edmonton. I didn't mean
Calgary,
Winnipeg.
Edmonton. Yeah, I didn't know.
What is Manitoba? That's central. It's kind of central.
I still kind of consider West.
You should have said Smythe Division.
Smythe
I
Division.
should have said
There
Smythe
we
Division.
go. I'm gonna clip it. I think they're a decent team. Like they're playing really well-rounded hockey. They're a good team. I still think the Calgary Flames have the best team out of those three, and I still see them over the course of this season as finishing with the most points.
I'm going to clip it, but they'll be close. I think they'll be up there. I don't think they'll have the most points, but
Growing up on the hard streets of Kitsilano, I mean, is this a tough one for you to answer?
It's really
Yeah,
tough.
that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
if they go through to that third jersey though, I might fall back in love.
Love that jersey.
Yeah.
Love that jersey. All right, deep dish pizza is overrated. Keep it or clip it.
Clip it.
Well, that was quick.
Well, how can you no pizza? Well, okay, unless like vegan pizza is overrated.
Well,
But
first of
if
all,
it's not vegan pizza, it's not really pizza. But no, deep dish pizza is not overrated. How could it be?
Well, I'll let Gage answer first, then I'll tear you a new one.
Can you write down Dusty had a bad question today? You're running about
that's
good
not
questions.
a bad question.
That's a horrible question.
My God, I cannot. Oh,
It all depends on how it's made and the crust, I think. But no, clip it. It's not overrated.
you guys are both ridiculous. I had a deep dish pizza in Chicago, and it was awful. It was awful. It's not even pizza. It's
You're
something else
awful.
entirely. It's something else entirely. God. Patrick Laine should be locked in with Scheifele and Wheeler on the Jets' top line. Keep it or clip it.
Locked in?
Yeah,
Clip
locked
it.
in.
Clip it. You're gonna like Scheifele and Wheeler are locked in. Lining is gonna move around a little bit
Why?
because
He's a sniper. Put him
he
with
is
those
a
guys.
sniper.
Put him in those
Yeah,
spots.
he's gonna be with them more often than not. But should he be there locked in all the time? No. Too liable defensively still at this point, and I know he gets help from Scheifele because Scheifele is really responsible in his own zone, really good down low in his own zone.
So isn't that a good idea then? Scheifele can look after that?
You can look after that. Yeah, you want Laine. I was gonna say like up against, and I know it's probably a bad example because Edmonton lost to Winnipeg just the other day. But it's like, do you want Laine if he's on the wing against like a Leon Draisaitl? Do you trust him there or playing against a top pairing all the time from another team from a defensive standpoint? I'm not quite there yet with him. He hasn't earned my trust yet. So no, not locked in. Should he be there right now? Yep. Should he be there all the time? Nope.
Gager?
I would say, well, it's tough for me because I don't want to agree with Kass, but
But hey, you can if you want. This is on me for not asking the good questions.
Yeah.
well, what did you say? You
I said Dusty asked a bad question.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say keep it for now because they need to score
You keep answering the
All these
questions with for now.
contingencies.
Like,
for
For
now.
a month, for 9 games, for now.
answer the bloody
Hey,
question.
the NHL is not a sprint; it's a marathon, baby.
All right. They played last night. This is being recorded on Thursday. They played last night. The Senators will finish with more points than the Red Wings.
See, I told you guys the Red Wings are going to suck this year. You guys both said they had upside.
I don't know if I described it as having upside, but I don't know if I would have agreed with you saying they suck this year, but you might be right. You might be right. So, but are the Senators going to suck less?
No.
So the Senators are going to suck more.
Yeah.
So you're keeping it.
Yeah.
No, you're clipping it.
Oh, no, clipping it. Yeah.
I'm keeping
Wings
it.
finish with more.
I'm going to support
Are you
Kass's
supporting-
alma mater. That's what it is.
Mater.
And,
I think you can say
Alma
it either
mater.
way.
can you?
Alma mater or alma mater.
Or
Yeah.
alma mater.
Well, Cass, you married
I married
an American woman.
American.
So
She's
what
from
does she say?
I don't even know. She
Yeah.
says y'all, and
Does she?
Does she really?
she's from Texas. Of course she says y'all.
That's cool. But she still
cool.
says it?
Yeah, she's from Texas. It doesn't mean it, like she never had a really thick accent. It tempers a little bit,
Yeah.
like when she's in Canada for a long time. But she goes back home for like a day, and then it's just the thick
Y'all.
Southern. Yeah, the y'all's
From
back.
Texas.
Nice.
Did you ever play Cowboys and Indians?
Outside of Carey Price, Max Domi is the most dominant player on that, or the most important player on the Habs. Outside of Carey Price,
Keep it.
really?
Yeah, I think I said it before. He's a catalyst on that. He always comes. He's a little disturber out there. I like his game. I think he's maturing as a player. And again, we were talking about rivalries, and he's really stoking that fire with Montreal, Toronto after what's his name threw the stick. That was pretty
By
funny.
the way,
actually.
I'm going to that game in Montreal
on.
Saturday night.
Nice.
I'm calling
Nice.
a football game, and I'm
That'll
sticking
be
around to
awesome.
go to the game.
Totally worth
I've never
it.
been to a Habs
You
game.
know what?
Oh,
You
you've
do?
never been?
No, this
You've
is
never
my
been in that
first one.
building?
No.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
I was there for a draft, but it's not the
No,
same.
that
Yeah.
building, that was my favorite place to play by far.
Isn't
That
it
is-
the best when I remember walking to the rink before the game, and it was like it was the middle of winter in old Montreal. It's so nice in there, and you knew that there was a Habs game that night because all the little shops were putting their flags in the windows, and there was like it was a calm before the storm. It's a great feeling. If anyone ever gets a chance to go to a Habs game, make sure you walk around the city a couple hours before and just see everyone get ready for it.
I remember having to leave the rink and being told by the police officers that we couldn't walk back to the hotel.
Yeah, you told me
Yeah,
that.
because we might get
the brawl.
stabbed.
That's playoffs.
That's
though. Regular
Montreal.
season, you're fine.
All right, here we Kass, keep it.
I didn't answer. I think you got to keep it right now.
You do, eh?
Yeah, I think you got to keep it right
And
now.
I thought that would have been a double clip, but you guys both kept it.
Yeah, I kept it.
Huh, I am way off today.
Are we always agreeing?
No, well, like you keep agreeing with me. This was
Yeah.
the first one I agreed with you.
We need to spend more time together so we can start hating each other a little bit more.
All right, Cassian, that would be you, Kass. Cassian would be the best out of all of us on the show Survivor.
Really?
I'm not going to answer this first.
You answer first. Okay, no, I'll answer. Well, I'd have to say keep it. Yeah, because I don't trust Dusty, and
Come on!
and I don't camp.
Cass, what do you think?
You know what? Here's my thought: is that I probably would be kept around in the early, like because I'm a large individual, so like and a pretty decent athlete for the most part. Like not as good as I used to be, but it's like I'd help with some of the physical challenges. You know, maybe sometimes I'm kind of smart, so it's like maybe I help with some of the mental challenges. So it's like early on and be kept around for that.
You're going to be a threat.
The later on I become a threat, so that would be the challenge. Would be later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I'm physically not intimidating in any way. So
Yeah, but you're conniving. I feel.
I am conniving. Yeah, you're right. Actually, quick Survivor story. Very quickly, Survivor story. My parents are huge Survivor. Like I'm talking season 1 of Survivor. They had like the torches outside the house. The whole family came over and watched it. Then the board game came out, and my dad was. We used to play a ton of board games until it like ruined the family. And my dad had the Survivor board game, read the rules for like 3 hours. Finally, he's like, "Okay, everybody to the table. We're gonna play Survivor." And my sister had her boyfriend over, so it was 3 guys and 3 chicks. And my dad's looking at us. He's like, "Hey, guys alliance. I was like, "Yeah, man, yeah." First vote, I voted his ass out. And he was just like, "What?" So then every other time after that, and I said, "Hey, man, Survivor, you gotta." Every other time after that, my family would vote me out immediately, so I stopped playing. Okay, last one, then we'll wrap up. Splitting up McDavid and Draisaitl long term would be what's best for the Oilers.
Clip it.
Not long term, like
Long term, no. Clip it.
so you just have them together forever for their entire career.
Look how much they produce.
They are ridiculous.
Like they're ridiculous together. Why would you split that up? I mean, that would be like, and I know this is going, and I know it's Oilers history, but it's like when we say like Gretzky Curry, it's like if you said, okay, well, splitting those guys up is best for the team long term. You'd be like, no. On occasion, it's going to happen, and that's fine. But long term, no, it doesn't make sense. You need to have. I mean, I always hate going back to the Taylor Hall Adam Larson trade because Adam Larson is a good defenseman and he doesn't deserve the aggression that I sometimes give that trade. But it's like you need that secondary, like second winger on that team that's going to produce at an ultra high level and drive offense on that line so that you can keep those two guys together. And you do not have that in Edmonton. But long term, that's what's best, having a second line player that's going to drive the offense. You don't want to split those two up. They're too good together.
Gage, what do you think?
Flip.
Agree with me again
Yeah,
because
agree
you know I'm
again.
right.
Yeah, but I reluctantly, because I wish that they could split them up a little bit more to throw other teams off a little bit more. I think they can key on them that one line and stack up their top D pairing against them. I mean, I guess it comes down to second and third lines being a threat to score as well. But yeah, you have to keep them together, especially. And I just hope that we don't get into a situation where it just becomes, as soon as maybe they're split up for a second, but the other team scores, and then
back
you go
together again.
right back
Yeah.
together. And we've had that. I think it's such a crutch for coaches to use. I mean, it's a pretty good crutch, but I wish we just had a little more things to throw at other teams.
All right, there you go. That's Keep It or Clip It for Sport Clips Haircuts. Like to thank Sport Clips for. I have the name of the
Okay, I was
episode.
gonna say, I was just about to
It's
ask.
an easy one. Episode 11. Great questions.
There you go.
Because both of you guys are bringing great questions.
I won't be here next week.
You're just telling us that right now?
I thought it'd be good for the air.
Like both shows?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I got to go check out that wall down in Mexico.
You're going to Mexico?
Yeah.
By yourself?
No.
Oh, with the family?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, have a good time.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just come with you and do the podcast down there. Should have given us the heads up. All right, Gage. Well,
That's
see
why
you
we
over
got the
weekend,
green
buddy.
screen.
Yeah,
Next,
yeah.
we already
That's
got the
right.
name for next week. Yeah,
You know what?
Gager goes to Mexico.
Cass, next week we'll do Mexico on the
we'll
green
do Mexico green
We'll be
screen.
there right with you. We'll put a picture
Nice.
of you up on the sand too. That'd be great. All right, so that's going to do it for episode 11. Great questions here at Two Guys and a Goalie, presented to you by our presenting sponsor, OddsShark. Check them out at oddshark.com. And of course, our friends at Popeyes Chicken. Try Popeyes legendary Louisiana chicken today. And Sport Clips Haircuts, home of the MVP experience. For Hernan Salas helping us out, Matt Cass and Joaquin Gage, I'm Dustin A. Nielsen. Thank you very much for downloading, listening, or watching the live stream. Give us comments and give us a rating on the podcast. We'd appreciate that.
I'm tired of doing it.